Greetings and welcome to Science Meets Vedanta, a platform dedicated to uncovering the core principles of Vedanta and highlighting the intriguing connections between contemporary science and timeless wisdom. I'm Jayant Kapatkar, author of the book Science Meets Vedanta. Each week, inspired by insights from my book, we'll delve into a range of engaging topics at the intersection of these fields. I invite you to join us on this illuminating journey. In this episode, we explore the true meaning of Bhakti Yoga. We will look beyond the common understanding of Bhakti as external worship or devotion to a distant God and examine how Vedanta guides us toward a deeper form of devotion. True Bhakti is not only love for God outside us, but also love, reverence, and surrender directed toward the innermost self. Through this understanding, Bhakti Yoga becomes an essential support for Jnana Yoga and a powerful path towards self-awareness and moksha. Introduction. The word bhakti is commonly understood as devotion or as a deep feeling of love. Yoga means practice. Therefore, bhakti yoga may be understood as the practice of devotion or the practice of love. Every human being seeks permanent happiness, a happiness that is continuous, unbroken, and lasting at all times. Vedanta teaches that if we truly want such permanent happiness, the goal of human life must be moksha. Moksha means liberation, liberation from the cycle of birth and death. This alone offers the possibility of lasting peace and happiness. It is certainly a lofty and difficult goal, but there is no other final solution. As long as we remain caught in the cycle of birth and death, permanent happiness remains out of reach. We may find happiness in worldly objects and experiences, but such happiness is always temporary. It can never be everlasting. Logically, then, moksha should be the ultimate goal for each one of us. But how is moksha to be attained? The road is not easy. It is demanding and requires sincere effort. The only reliable guidance is found in our ancient scriptures. We must study them, understand the teachings, and more importantly, assimilate that knowledge so that it becomes part of our daily living. According to our scriptures, there are 4 principal paths that help us move toward this goal. 1. Jnana Yoga, the practice of knowledge. 2. Bhakti Yoga, the practice of devotion, love, and self-surrender. 3. Raja Yoga, the practice of meditation and contemplation. 4. Karma Yoga, the practice of action performed with the right attitude. These 4 paths form the underlying core of the teachings of the Hindu scriptures. When practiced correctly, they help guide us toward the ultimate goal of moksha. But can we choose only one of these paths? Do we really have that choice? Many people mistakenly believe that one can select a single path, concentrate exclusively on it, and thereby reach moksha. This understanding is incomplete. The spiritual journey does not work in such a narrow way. Each path has its own importance, and none of them can be ignored. Having said that, do these paths follow any order of priority? Are some more critical than others at certain stages of spiritual growth? Perhaps. Raja Yoga and Karma. Yoga may be considered essential prerequisites. For one who is beginning the spiritual journey, these 2 paths are like the base camp before the steep climb toward moksha. They prepare the seeker by purifying the mind, making it calmer, more peaceful, and less cluttered. This preparation is vital because only when the mind has become sufficiently purified can the paths of jnana and bhakti bear their full fruit. Let us therefore briefly examine these practices and gain a broad overview of their role. Karma Yoga. Any spiritual journey must begin with Karma Yoga, the path of action. It serves as the foundation course for the seeker. The Bhagavad Gita is the primary source for understanding the true spirit of Karma Yoga. From the moment we wake up in the morning until we go to sleep at night, we are constantly engaged in action. With every action, we naturally expect a favorable result. When the result is favorable, we feel happy. But when the result is unfavorable, we become disappointed, frustrated, or even angry. This dependence on favorable outcomes is one of the main sources of our unhappiness. How then can we overcome this problem? The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 47, gives us the essential teaching. You have authority over the action you perform, but you do not have authority over the results of that action. The result of any action is given by God. It is not under our control. Therefore, whether the result is pleasant or unpleasant, we must learn to accept it with humility and equanimity. This may not always be easy, but it is the central teaching of Karma Yoga. When this attitude becomes part of our daily life, the mind becomes more peaceful. Success and failure no longer disturb it in the same way. Gradually, this practice purifies the mind and prepares it for the higher spiritual journey. Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is another important discipline for quietening the mind. The mind is usually filled with constant activity, perceptions, emotions, thoughts, memories, imaginations, and daydreams. If we observe it carefully, we will notice that it is rarely still. It continuously jumps from one thought to another. For this reason, the mind is often compared to a monkey, which is restless and keeps leaping from branch to branch. Our mind behaves in much the same way. How then can the mind be made quiet? The answer lies in reducing the number of thoughts that arise within it. This is where the teaching of Raja Yoga becomes essential. Raja Yoga helps us turn the mind away from excessive outward activity and gradually direct it inward. Ordinarily, we are deeply habituated to engaging with the external world, and this constant interaction keeps the mind active and restless. To quieten the mind, we must learn to look within. This inward movement is cultivated through practices such as prayer, meditation, and japam, the meditative repetition of a sacred name or mantra. These practices gradually shift the focus of the mind from the outer world to the inner self. With regular practice, the mind becomes calmer, more peaceful, and purer. In this way, Raja Yoga prepares the mind for deeper spiritual understanding and devotion. Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are inseparable. They are not competing paths, but complementary disciplines that must support each other on the journey toward moksha. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge, while Bhakti Yoga is the path of devotion, love, and surrender. Many people assume that one may choose either knowledge or devotion and still reach the final goal. This understanding is incomplete. Knowledge without devotion can remain dry and theoretical, while devotion without knowledge can become sentimental, limited, or misdirected. A seeker who follows only the path of knowledge may study the scriptures, reflect deeply on the Upanishads, and gain a clear intellectual understanding of Vedanta. But knowledge alone is not enough if it remains only in the intellect. It must be absorbed, internalized, and transformed into direct living experience. This transformation is helped by bhakti. Devotion brings warmth and intimacy to knowledge. It changes knowledge from something merely conceptual into something deeply personal. Through love, reverence, and surrender, the seeker begins to live the truth rather than merely understand it. In the same way, a seeker who follows only the path of bhakti may be sincere, pious, and full of devotion, but devotion also requires right understanding. We must know the truth toward which our devotion is directed. The more clearly we understand the nature of God and the deeper reality behind God, the more mature and steady our devotion becomes. Knowledge gives direction to devotion, and devotion gives life to knowledge. Without jnana, bhakti may remain incomplete. Without bhakti, jnana may remain unassimilated. Therefore, both are essential. Together, they lead the seeker toward moksha. Brahman and Ishvara. Let us begin by asking two simple but important questions. These questions help clarify the focus of Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Question 1. Jnana is the path of knowledge. But knowledge of what? Is it merely knowledge of the physical world? Answer. A student of Jnana Yoga would say that it is the knowledge of the underlying reality of the universe. It is the knowledge of our innermost core, which is not separate from the fundamental reality behind the universe. In Vedanta, this reality is called Brahman, Satchit Ananda, or self-awareness. These terms point to the same truth. To understand this truth is the central pursuit of Jnana Yoga. Question 2. Bhakti is the path of devotion and love. But devotion to whom? Love for what? Answer. The usual answer given by a follower of Bhakti is devotion to God, or Ishvara. Bhakti means love for God, reverence for God, and surrender to God. This is the central focus of Bhakti Yoga. Here we notice an important distinction. Jnana Yoga directs the seeker toward Brahman, the ultimate reality, while Bhakti Yoga generally directs devotion toward God, or Ishvara. This naturally raises a question: are Brahman and Ishvara the same? The underlying reality is one, but Vedanta explains that Brahman and Ishvara are not expressed in exactly the same way. This distinction is usually explained through two important terms. Nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities, attributes, form, or limitation. It is our innermost core. It is self-aware. Self-awareness means that the self is aware of itself. In this state, the self is both the subject and the object. The knower and the known are not two separate things. Subject and object are one and the same. This is not an easy idea to grasp, but we can try to imagine a reality in which the one who knows and the thing known are identical. That reality is self-awareness. Because subject and object are identical in self-awareness, Nirguna Brahman is non-dual, partless, and unchanging. It has no qualities, attributes, form, or limitations. It is a homogeneous reality. Saguna Brahman, or Ishvara. Unlike Nirguna Brahman, which is non-dual, Ishvara is associated with duality, an object outside and a subject within. Because of this duality, Ishvara is understood as possessing the powers and attributes required to create, sustain, control, and govern the universe. Thus, the primary focus of Jnana Yoga is discovering the knowledge of Nirguna Brahman, which is our innermost core. The primary focus of Bhakti Yoga is generally Saguna Brahman, or Ishvara. The devotee relates to Ishvara through love, reverence, surrender, and faith. Discovering the inner core. How does one discover the inner core? How does one search for Brahman, self-awareness, or Satchit Ananda within? It is not an object hidden somewhere inside us that can be searched for and found in the ordinary sense. For this reason, the process can be difficult to understand and even more difficult to practice. The only reliable way forward is to take guidance from our scriptures. The first step is the pursuit of Jnana Yoga, the disciplined pursuit of knowledge that helps us understand our innermost core. To discover this inner source, we must first understand awareness itself, because awareness is our true inner core. We must understand the powers inherent in awareness and see how the entire external universe depends upon it. All knowledge and intelligence arise in awareness. Space, time, and every object in the universe are known only because awareness is present. These subjects have been discussed in detail in many episodes on our platform. The more clearly we understand awareness, the more deeply we can appreciate Brahman, or self-awareness. With this understanding, the spiritual journey becomes less complicated and more direct. Second, once this knowledge of awareness is understood, it must be internalized. For this, dedicated bhakti and love toward the inner core are essential. In every situation, bhakti should be directed toward this innermost self. If one goes to a temple and sees the deity, the worship may begin with the form before one's eyes. But the prayer must ultimately be directed toward the divine core within. The love offered to the deity must be redirected toward the real self. People perform different pujas at home or in holy places. They recite mantras and read scriptures. All these practices are positive and useful. Yet, even while performing them, the focus should not remain merely external. The attention must gradually turn inward. The love and devotion expressed through these practices should be offered to the inner core, the real self. Every spiritual activity should therefore be undertaken with inward attention. Whenever free time is available, it should not be wasted in unnecessary distractions. Instead, one should use those moments to turn inward, contemplate the inner self, and meditate on being aware of the self. This regular inward movement helps devotion become deeper and more mature. Thus, real bhakti is not limited to outward worship. Its highest expression is devotion and love directed toward the inner self. When bhakti turns inward in this way, it supports jnana and helps the seeker move closer to self-awareness. I hope you found this episode insightful and thought-provoking. The true meaning of bhakti yoga is to turn devotion inward, toward the real self, our innermost core, when love, reverence, and surrender are directed toward self-awareness. Bhakti becomes a powerful support for jnana and helps guide the seeker toward moksha. If you are interested in delving deeper into topics like this, we invite you to discover more in my book, Science Meets Vedanta, available on Amazon. Additionally, we now have a library of over 40 podcasts covering many different topics. Feel free to browse through them at your convenience. If you enjoyed today's episode, we encourage you to share it with your family and friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an upcoming episode.